Hey guys, my name is Sarah Wisted. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video I'm so excited about because we are talking about patio furniture. So today's video is going to be about how to make your outdoor space look more expensive. I've really curated my personal style and I feel like you guys are asking for a lot of my opinion and perspective on certain things, which I'm so grateful for. So I'm of course happy to share. But before we jump into this video, I just want to quickly remind everyone that my style is very much a modern minimal. I'm actually moving towards like a warm minimalism is kind of how I'm describing my style, which is definitely not for everybody. So if you describe your style as like warm minimalism, which means not a lot going on, a lot of neutrals, clean lines, but you want it to feel lived in and warm, then this video is definitely for you. This is actually a two-part series video. This first part of the series is going to be describing how to help your outdoor space look more expensive, more luxurious, more high-end, however you want to explain it. And then I'm gonna have a part two, which I actually did a bunch of research, which actually prompted this video. But I did a bunch of research on what's available out to just buy and shop online today. None of this is like custom ordered furniture. There's a few pieces that I did just want to share just because I think they're so stunning. But everything is available to shop online. So that's going to be part two on this video, which is just some linkable items that I think could work and feel really cool in your outdoor patio space, balcony space, whatever it is that you have. So let's jump in. The first way that I think you can make your outdoor space feel more luxurious is to invest in more substantial furniture. Now I say that with hesitancy because obviously you guys are gonna be like, Sarah, of course I wanna invest in substantial furniture, but the substantial furniture comes along with a really hefty price tag. And if you're like me, you're probably on the same wavelength as you don't wanna spend all your money on outdoor furniture when you can spend that money inside and use it year round versus however long you get to use it in your outdoor space. Also, the outdoor furniture does have to interfere with all the elements out there. So I agree with you, spending a lot of money outdoors actually isn't the best option, but I will say you can find some pretty substantial furniture at pretty good price ranges. And in my opinion, I would wait to invest in that furniture versus just buying something that just looks kind of like thrown out there, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't thoughtfully chosen and it's just kind of like, oh, we have an outdoor space, let's just throw some stuff out there so that we can be out there. Which of course, if that is your vibe, then all for it. I am fully there for somebody who just wants like a low-key backyard experience. But this video is how to make your backyard look more expensive. So I'm going to say that that is not the option that I would choose. So yeah, when I'm talking about substantial furniture, I'm more so saying the bigger sofas, the modular sectionals, even like the club chairs that you buy, just have them more substantial and feel like more of like a bigger piece of furniture versus just something that's kind of like flimsy and plasticky, if that makes sense. Now I have seen some really cool plastic furniture, so I'm not talking anything about plastic. There's actually these really cool sculptural, super cheap actually, chairs at IKEA that I thought are really, really cool. But yeah, like something like that even is cool. So you can find really inexpensive options, but my preference and my main tip to make your backyard space feel more expensive and feel more luxurious is to find and invest in more substantial pieces of furniture. There's something to be said about just like tiny furniture that just makes something feel less luxe, if that makes sense. To bring it back into a more budget-friendly perspective, I do actually really like IKEA outdoor furniture. I feel like if you're going to save as much money as you can in that area, which I totally support, like I said, I would rather invest on the inside. IKEA has some really beautiful options, and even if you find a piece that maybe isn't as substantial as like a Restoration Hardware, for example, you can build out pieces and make it feel more luxurious, feel more expensive just by using IKEA pieces. Like they make it so easy. So I'm a huge fan of going to IKEA. If the second way that I would say that you can make your outdoor space feel more expensive and luxurious is to leave room to breathe. This is a tip that I always say inside or outside, no matter where you are. Just leaving space or room to breathe, I feel like adds so much elevated luxury to a space. And I don't like, I'm at a loss for words right now. I feel like my brain is like so scrambled from this week. Leaving space to breathe and room to breathe for your furniture, walkable space, space in between the back of a couch and the back of a wall, I just feel like shows that you're not trying to just like cram a bunch of stuff in one space. It feels more intentional. It feels more like airy and more relaxing and more breathable, if that makes sense. Like it's almost like there's just space to kind of like flow throughout. And that's kind of what you would want to do in your backyard as well to make it feel more expensive. Tip number 3 on how to make your outdoor space feel more expensive is to have intentional placement with your furniture. This one's kind of subjective, but I'm just going to give you my thoughts on some furniture placement parts of like how I would set some furniture up, just to kind of give you that perspective if you're interested. I think the first thing that I just want to mention is, in my opinion, I would avoid any kind of like commercial furniture setup. You know how you can buy those like sets of furniture, and I do like patio sets because I think everything matching could look really cool, but you have to be intentional on how you place it so it doesn't look like you just like picked it up from the store and plopped it in your backyard. I feel like you have to think a little bit further into that. Like, will this work in my backyard? Should I put it the exact same way that they had at the store? And like, what is a more unique way that I can place this where it feels more, I don't know, high end, I guess. In my first placement of furniture that I personally have been loving, I've really been loving like the parallel conversation sets. It kind of goes back to the research I've been doing when I was looking at some of the higher end designs of outdoor spaces. I noticed a lot of their furniture sets, and like what my eye was being drawn to was a lot of like parallel conversation. And what I mean by that is having like a sofa, like a 3-seater sofa on one side, and then 2 club chairs on the other side with a rectangle or some sort of like fire pit in the middle. I just feel like that looks really clean and really cool, and it really goes back to the minimalist vibes that you guys know that I love, which is clean lines, straight lines, right angles, like all of that. Don't get me wrong, I love a good curve, so if you have curved furniture, I'm here for that as well. But that just feels really clean to me. So like, I also love the extra long sofas that I've been seeing. I feel like that is just a really, definitely a luxurious vibe, but of course you do have to pay for that as well. But what I'm talking about is like those really, really long sofas, even in like the U-shaped format, or even like the modular format where it's like a few sofa components, and then there's like a coffee table component, a few more sofa components, coffee table. Do you know what I mean? So it's like kind of broken up with the coffee table, so it's not so parallel or whatever, you know, not so symmetrical. But I just think it looks really cool because it's just like oversized, but it's still like all the same type of furniture piece, if that makes sense. So I don't know, I really like the modular sectional sofas, like the extra long sofas, I think are really, really cool. And that you can do from IKEA. IKEA has a lot of like individual like modular sofa pieces that you can buy, and you can literally build and customize your own sofa set, which I think is so cool. But yeah, I just think those are a really great option as a seating setup also. I also have really been loving unique chairs or classic chairs, classic substantial chairs set up in just like a circle, in a more like conversation circle with either like a fire pit in the middle or like a circle coffee table in the middle. I think looks really cool. My initial picture that I had pinned on Pinterest, actually, yes, I love Pinterest, was the picture of Kylie Jenner's backyard, which, you know, of course everyone's obsessed with Kylie Jenner's backyard. But she had these really beautiful pelican chairs. The chair itself was more unique. It was that pelican with like the big back, and it was just more sculptural, if that makes sense. And I think that that looked really, really cool. I've seen other, you know, more substantial club chairs that you can just like set up in a circle that are really unique. CB2 has a really good one. Club chair that they have that had this like curved back, and then they have a really thick sofa like seat part to it. And I feel like that could look really cool in like a conversation chair situation. What else? I also saw this really cool picture on Pinterest it was like a scoop chair, but they were around like a fireplace, like a fire pit over by the water. And I thought that looked really cool because I felt like those chairs were just a little bit more unique than what you normally see in people's backyards. So I just think adding some sort of unique element looks really, really good in a conversation set, like a circle set. So anyway, those are like my 3 more interesting placements, and just kind of to avoid the commercial setup. Tip number 4 on how to make your outdoor space feel more expensive is to be mindful of the materials you choose. So let's talk type of material. So when it comes to furniture or outdoor furniture, there's a lot of materials that you can choose from. Obviously some are a little bit easier to maintain than others, but some look much better than others as well. The one that reigns supreme, so like the one material that reigns supreme in the backyard space is obviously teak. Teak is the like queen or king of the backyard space. It's just so beautiful to add some sort of like wood texture in the backyard because, you know, wood is outdoors and it just feels more like it should be there versus like another type of texture. However, teak can be very expensive, especially ones that you know are gonna last a long time. If you buy cheap teak, you could, you know, that piece of furniture may not last as long. So it's kind of like you get what you pay for in terms of the teak department. However, it really is, in my opinion, the most beautiful to have in your outdoor space because I feel like it just should be there, and it comes in really straight lines, which again, you guys know that I like. And if you get it in a more substantial type of furniture, it just, I don't know, it's like chef's kiss, you know what I mean? Of course, you guys know that I'm going to love upholstery in the backyard space. I would love to have some sort of like upholstered couch in the backyard, but it's like, it's just so hard to maintain back there. But it does look so beautiful, and especially if you get a substantial like thick cushion, like you want to avoid the super thin cushions. It just looks like you're bringing a beautiful, inviting couch outdoors so that you can like sit and enjoy your outdoor space in. But I mean, we all know it just comes with a lot of maintenance that you have to keep up with. So yeah, we'll see. I've been really into concrete. That may come as no surprise being somebody who loves minimal design, but I think concrete in the backyard looks really beautiful as well because it's kind of the juxtaposition of a natural material such as like the greenery, the grass, just all the nature that's outside versus the concrete, which is super hard and super non-traditional, if that makes sense. So I think the concrete juxtaposition looks really cool, especially if you get like a really cool concrete table, or I don't know if you'd want a concrete chair. I feel like that might be a little uncomfortable, but I don't know, I just think concrete looks really cool in the backyard space. And then I'm also somewhat of a fan of wicker furniture and iron furniture. I say somewhat, I feel like wicker, like to start out with, wicker is like a hit or miss for me. I think it looks cool, and if you find like a more substantial piece, of course I keep going back to the word substantial, but something that looks more like nicer, like you can get wicker off of Amazon, for example, that's like the flimsy thin wicker material. I actually did have an outdoor couch that had that material and it looked okay, but it just wasn't, it didn't feel expensive, if that makes sense, but it wasn't bad, I guess. But what I'm talking about is like the nice wicker furniture. It almost looks like, how do I explain this? It almost looks like old money. Do you know what I mean? Like if you were to go to someone's house that's very old money, they would have wicker furniture in like their chateau in the south of France or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it does feel very like traditional, but also high end, but it's also not super minimal. So that's where I'm kind of like, okay, I could do wicker because I think it does look nice and it looks substantial and it is classic, so I don't think it would really go out of style. You just have to find the right one, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then, so iron furniture, I do think iron furniture is super classic. I think you can get very cool designs with the iron furniture. I also see iron furniture in like a garden filled with lots of like flowers and roses and everything like that. My next tip for making your backyard space feel more expensive is to add in the greenery. This one's obvious, you guys. I don't even feel like I have to say it, but if you're gonna be outside, you should really build out the like outside feel, and I feel like there's nothing better than adding greenery to your outdoor space. Obviously, adding greenery can be an investment, or it can be a bit more challenging depending on where you are. If it's your patio space that you're trying to make over, for example, you don't really have like ground that you can like plant stuff in. But I just think adding some sort of touch of greenery or touch of like living outdoor in your backyard space just elevates it to like another level. But if you add a lot, that is like the next level, like stunning goals type of home. But to be fair, like a lot of this greenery that I'm talking about is usually like very mature plants, and that's what you like, I don't know, that's like what I strive to be. Our backyard is like fully naked right now. There's like nothing back there. So even for me, I'm not gonna have the greenery that I want for any time soon, because we have to plant them and then they have to grow. So some concepts that I've been loving lately that I think just look really cool and just a little bit more unique is having these oversized planters in your backyard space with trees growing in them. I think that looks really cool. Like I think it just adds a little something to a space that may otherwise not have anything. So if you have like a really big outdoor space or a patio on your deck or or a patio like on a balcony, for example, and you don't really have like green, like grass or whatever it is in that space, adding planters with live trees in them are just, I feel like just adds so much to a space. I also am obsessed, like full-blown obsessed with ivy and climbing plants lately. And it's kind of an unhealthy obsession because I did so much research on ivy because I wanted so badly to grow ivy on my house, like literally on the brick part of my house. But I sadly to say don't think it's gonna happen, only because our house is white and we all know English ivy is like, it just tears everything up, and you just, if you plant it, you have to, it's like high maintenance. You cannot let it get overgrown. It'll ruin whatever surface that it's on. So obviously English ivy was kind of like out of the picture, but we were looking at Boston ivy because if you do wanna grow ivy on your house, Boston ivy is a great option because it doesn't do all that English ivy does. But the only downside, in my opinion, for Boston ivy is that it does go dormant in the winter. So it leaves like all its like ivy branches brown on your house, which if you're putting it on a brick house or you're putting it on some sort of like brown like background where it kind of blends in, I think it's totally like cool and it looks really like unique. I like that. But if you're putting it on a white house and it's dormant in the winter and it's just, you see these like dead branches on a white house, like that contrast I felt like wouldn't look good. So we're not doing ivy. I'm really sad. Okay, so the last part before I end this video, I just wanted to mention like 2 other things to note, only because I've been asked about them, so I just figured I would share my opinion really quickly. The first one is for outdoor rugs. I do like outdoor rugs. I think that they're totally fine. I personally don't know if I'm going to put some out in my outdoor space, only because like they're just hard, because if it rains and you have to dry them out, it's just kind of a lot. But if you have a space that's covered or you don't mind dealing with that like maintenance of having to dry it out, I personally would avoid bold pattern and bold colored rugs. If you want to do a bold pattern or bold color, I would do it somewhere else than a rug, because that's literally like will take over the entire space. And again, this is from a minimalist perspective who doesn't really love a lot of color around. I'd rather have greenery and then neutrals on like the furniture. I don't know, I just feel like a rug that has a really bold pattern just kind of distracts from everything else that's happening. So I would opt for like a neutral and then a dark, not darker, but like maybe like a brown rug so that it doesn't get really dirty, if that makes sense, outside. So probably like a tan jute rug would be kind of like my go-to if I were going to put something out there. And then last but not least are throw pillows. From a minimalist perspective, I don't love throw pillows at all, much less bright, bold throw pillows. If you're gonna do throw pillows, I would do all tone on tone, like tonal type of throw pillows, lots of natural colors, that kind of thing. But you don't have to do like all white, for example. You could do like, if the couch you're putting it on has like white or like lighter colored cushions, you could do like all tones of that. So like it doesn't have to be all white, it can be like white and beige, and just make sure it all kind of like flows together. I personally, again, like them all to be the same size. I don't know what it is about like the different sizes of pillows when people put them together. I don't know, there's just something that it just doesn't sit right with me. So that's my thought on throw pillows. All right, so that was it for how to make your backyard space look more expensive. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. And as mentioned, I am coming out with a part 2, which has links to a bunch of options, shoppable options that you can buy online of furniture that I found that I think would look really cool in your outdoor space. So stay tuned for that. And I'm sure I will see you guys on my next video.